I see a lot of people that are really excited that Alex Pereira is now light heavyweight champion again, and the fact that he KO'd Ankalaev in a round, which was wicked to do, by the way, and a very legitimate resume win. It opens up the possibility for a super fight at heavyweight for him versus Aspinall, which would be the first triple champion fight ever. So there is that possibility, but I want to talk about something that's on the horizon in relation to the light heavyweight division, and that is the fact that the most likely next opponent for Alex Pereira is Carlos Ulberg and Tom Aspinall. Carlos Ulberg, if Alex Pereira wins, not only does it not do much for his legacy, but if he loses and Ulberg wins, Ulberg will probably be like the most hated champion in the sport. Not even maybe, he would be the most hated champion in the sport, if not more hated than Magomed Ankalaev, and one of the most hated champions of all time. The fact that he's beat so many fan favorites, and the fact that he has a more boring style, and the fact that him winning the title, he kind of would have a bit of an illegitimate run to it. So there's that. And then if he fights Tom Aspinall, if Pereira wins, yes, insane UFC history. He'd be the first triple champion. It would be insane. It would be crazy. It would be a crazy accomplishment. But how likely really is that? Because I think what's more likely is the latter, is that if he goes up to heavyweight, well, now the light heavyweight division is in the hands of potentially Magomed Ankalaev, who will have recently been KO'd in a round, walked through in a round. Think about it. If he goes on to win like one or two more fights and becomes the champion again, he's not going to be respected at all, because it's going to be seen as, okay, well, you just got ran through in a round not even 2 fights ago. So Ankalaev potentially re-winning the belt would kill the division. Ulberg winning the belt would kill the division. Or you have Yuri Prochazka, who's already 0-2 versus Pereira, and I would love for him to re-win the title, but how respected as champion will he be, and for how long of a champion would he be? Now, after his next fight, he's probably going to retire. He might only have 1 or 2 more fights left. So the optics of what's left over at light heavyweight right now over the course of the next 1 to 2 years is terrible. So that raises the question, who will be the next dominant champion or great champion in the post-Pereira era, assuming that he moves up to heavyweight or retires within the next 1 to 2 years? Guys in the mix to touch gold next to light heavyweight. You got Carlos Ulberg, you got Magomed Ankalaev, and you got Yuri Prochazka. If anyone, or if any one of these 3 goes on to win the belt, it's gonna be disregarded, it's gonna be given less credit, because them as champion, either they're gonna have multiple losses to a guy who just left the division, or they're not going to be respected really for their resume. Like, they're just not going to be taken seriously as champions or get the same hype, because of the fact that there's really no interesting fights at the division or at light heavyweight, because everyone has lost to Pereira. There's no fresh matchups really to make at the top now that Ankalaev is no longer champion, and he's not really regarded as a great. He's not regarded as a guy that can go on to be great, because he was expected to beat Alex Pereira twice. He was expected to beat him twice and go on a run and be an all-time great light heavyweight. But now that that's no longer the case, I don't really know how light heavyweight is expected to play out or pan out over the next couple of years. So I think ultimately Pereira winning ends up leaving a huge void in the division, because now we're no longer going to have any dominant champion, and we know that Alex Pereira is inevitably going to leave soon, or he's going to move up or retire. And whoever in the near future does end up winning the belt is probably not going to be respected or have the same hype that they once did. So I think the light heavyweight division is going to need to be shaken up a bit more, and they really need a guy who either has not lost to Pereira or is on a super convincing run that ends up winning the title. Or else we're going to be in a stagnation period where we probably see the belt continuously switch hands for a while again. Newer names / best prospects on the rise to potentially keep an eye out for post-Pereira era. Bogdan Guskov, he's 4-0 in his last 4 fights. His best win is Nikita Krylov. Azamat Murzakanov, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He's undefeated in the UFC. His best wins are Menafield and Dustin Jacoby, so not terrible, I guess. He's on a run. Navajo Sterling, 3-0 in his last 3 fights, undefeated in the UFC. His best win is Ivan Arslan and Rodolfo Bellato, so not a terrible run either. You got Abdul Rahman Yakayev. He's coming off Dana White Contender Series. He's 7-0, looks super athletic, powerful. I'd say for light heavyweight standards, or for the guys that they've shown so far on the Contender Series, he looks good, so I'd expect him to go somewhat far. Rafael Tobias was another guy coming off Contender Series that looks pretty okay. He's 14-1. He's probably the second most notable guy on the Contender Series so far for light heavyweight, so just a name to pay attention to. But my overall point being is that it may be a while before light heavyweight has its next dominant champion, a respected champion. Like, the division is going to be in a huge drought, because there's not a lot of talent on the rise, and there's really only a couple of prospects, or there's only a couple of names in the mix that are really on like a decent win streak, or are really talented, or like young and on the rise. So it's just the fact that the division is so dead. There's genuinely no prospects, and everyone that is at the top has multiple losses to the champion. So he's already ran through most of the division or his legitimate challenges. So I feel like light heavyweight, the fact that Alex Pereira just ended Ankalaev's potentiality to be a great champion, just kind of ruined the lineage of the weight class, at least temporarily.